Hey, hey, it's your Sensei Al Bob on Valentine's Day, and we're 2 minutes into the bubble land of love. Love, love, love. What is love? Is it that Katy Perry, you know, greeting card? Without Valentine's Day, I don't think greeting cards would have made it. Or chocolate. Dragon. The thing about Valentine's Day, it should be celebrated 365 days of the year. And now, a specific individual that you might have seen this morning in my morning chat can't get it out of their head about polyamorous. They think that it's whatever they think it is, and it's their opinion, which is fine. And that's what I really kind of tell everyone. Basically, you know, all human beings have two things that are common to them. One, they have an opinion on what they think the worldview is or their worldview is, and the other is they have an asshole, a anal port, right, where they eliminate feces. And that's usually kind of what your opinion is, elimination of feces. And if you think your opinion is right, forget about it. Me, I don't think I'm right about anything. You know, your sensei have insights, and they're your insights, not mine. And we go together. You know, we have the cadre, right? And that is now pushing almost towards 300, the magic 300. 300 that stood off 500,000 of the army of the Persian Empire, right? That's us. But we don't have swords and spears, and what we have is love's co-creation, right? And there are friends above us. Those are the spirits, our spirits that are always with us. And to view them as evil or bad or good is irrelevant. They're there. And the thing is that our life, we have a free will, and we get to those spirits. They can inform us, right, by experience, and that's what within the shamanic construct of all our relations. That's what it's about. All the 9 generations before we came, our ancestors, and all our 9 generations in front of us, our progeny. And that's what we're here to, our children. We're not here to be their hero, their best friend. What we're here to be is a good example, and that means that we're with them, in one way or another. You can't be there personally, and you give them a jingling at least once a week, send them postcards, And I tried to be the good example to my parents, and that's what children need to be. The children are the teachers. They teach. They're, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, children teach your parents well, And that's what it's about, That's what it's about. And every time you try to project your fear, your anxiety through judgment on someone else, really does no good, right? That's really why, whatever people say is whatever they say. It's their opinion, just like their asshole. Everyone's got one, right? But we're here to try and parse out what is polyamorous. Poly means many, amorous means affection. Doesn't mean sex. Eros. Eros is sex. Polyamorous means friendship. And I am friend to all. There's not a person I've ever met that I didn't like. didn't call friend. Now, that doesn't mean I need to always be with them or around them or be part of their scene. No, but when they do come in my, you know, environment, I do one of two things. I either make them my friend, or I leave. If you read the Lao Tzu's Art of War, the number one thing is to get out of Dodge to collect all of those innocent people that you can and take them out of harm's way. That is the calling of the samurai. Not to go in and slice people up like bologna, but no, to you look at Kane in Kung Fu. He did everything he could to ameliorate the situation. And then when it came to the point where someone was going to kill him or someone he cared, and if he couldn't get him out of Dodge, he disrupted the situation. But he didn't hurt, and he would pick people up after he beat them up, right? So I'm even a little more evolved than that. I never have to beat anyone up. I'm out of harm's way all the time, you know? And because I know the universe will always take care of me because I'm here to serve love's co-creation, you know? And so see the little imagery that's going on. This is called cinematography. When you illuminate something in a way that tells the story along with you. So what do we got going on? We got things flying above my head in the mirror, and we have bubbles in the foreground, and we have red and green behind, right? And what does red and green represent? It represents sharing. Sharing and caring. Those two colors, green and red, are sharing and caring colors. And that's what love's about, sharing and caring. Not about being with one wife for the rest of your life. Oh, that's your, there are many people that come into your life, and some are, very important, and some are, great, and some are, they just kind of float just like these bubbles through your life, and they're attractive and they're interesting and they're kind of fun, and you can kind of interact with them. See, I can butt my head against them, and they move around, and that's kind of fun. I can move them around with my energy, right? And you can do that with clouds. You can turn clouds into puppy dogs you know and giraffes. Good man, dragon or woman, esoteric. Again, half of you guys, I still don't have any idea what species you are or what gender you are, which is fine by me because you're all my relations. You're my cadre. And when you speak in the chat, you are the chorus. And when you go into state, you are the shock troops of love's co-creation. I'm a man child. Okay, that's cool. Because it's basically, Dragon, if you were around, I guess it was 2 or 3 nights ago when I took everyone into that, into the land of the Amazons and showed that everyone's a woman, right? Everyone's a woman, just young at heart. Yeah, me too, you know. And that means you're alive. When you are not worrying about your age or what you look like or any of the above, any of the irrelevant, things, And if you want homeostasis, because that's what good health is, homeostasis, balance, the basic thing. The most important thing you need to do is to meditate, to breathe 20% in and 30% out, at least 5 to 10 times a day. Why can like today, I hardly ate anything, and I don't feel hungry. I'm fine, right? And I don't need to eat a dozen oranges or 3 dozen bananas or, a box of cookies or whatever, right? And the most important thing is, I take my blood sugar as long as it's between 90 and 140, I'm fine, you know. my blood pressure. As long as it's like between 120 and 70, I'm fine. As long as my standing um, pulse is around 89, 85, I'm great. And I do that through meditation. As long as I keep losing a pound or two a month, I'll be at one something by summertime. You know, I was at 160, um, and now I'm down to, um, you know, below 120, 220, right? And that's all from I eat what is good for me, and little bits of it, not a whole bunch, and it's as long as I feel satiated, as long as I feel happy, as long as there's no stress. And I have no stress because the universe takes care of me. I could, it doesn't matter. 2018, I was thrown out onto the street 26 times, like from Christmas, the day after Christmas, 2017, until October. I kind of was out on the street 26 different times, and basically, when it was obvious that okay, I'll just go, I did, and even though it was snowing or 9 degrees, below centigrade, -9, it was fine. Even though I had to sleep out in the woods in my car, I was fine because other things came along, other people came along. I, met a group of young millennials who were from rich families, and they graduated college, and there was no job for them. The only job they could get was, at Burger King, even though they had a college degree from Brown. So they were going to go on to graduate school, but they wanted to have a little adventure, so they decided to march from Georgia up the Appalachian Trail. And I met them in West Virginia. They left in late August, and it was, the day after Christmas, and they only made it to West Virginia. And I kind of hung out with them for a few days because they had no idea how to make a fire, how to stay warm, how to insulate this shack that they were in. They were going to freeze to death, right? And then, when we were looking for firewood, once I showed them how to start a fire and how to insulate the cabin and how to, they said, well, we have to go to Lowe's to buy firewood. We don't have, and I said, no, you don't. We're in the middle of a forest, national forest. Look at the floor. And they said, there's no wood on the floor. I said, the floor of the forest. The forest has a floor? Is it linoleum or concrete or is it tile? It's like, really? And you guys are college graduates. And then when we were looking for wood, we found people who were out in the woods who were army folk who could get no support because they had been deployed 10 times into Iraq and Afghanistan and had such severe PTSD and exposed to so many drugs to keep them sharp that they snapped in country and they got a dishonorable discharge. Even though they had, silver crosses and 5 and 6 Purple Hearts, no. And they had all kinds of commendations, no. Just because they lost their temper and slapped their lieutenant or said something inappropriate, they got, and that's what that administration, which was the Obama administration, wanted to, that's how they wanted to deal with people coming back. To have them, just floating like these bubbles with no support, right? And Obama did more bombing, more killing, more all the above, more destruction of the class structure, more support of the uber rich and the people that I call the hidden hand. I mean, Obama was, he could have been a clone for all I know, because all of that is kind of what it is. So today, Valentine's Day, I went with a friend who's, he likes to have a little company. Um, we go watch a movie. We're both old guys, and on Thursday it's the old person movie because we go see a movie, maybe twice a month. And he gets to talk to somebody and laugh and kid, and I've known him a long time, and that's what a friend does. Spends time not because I'm going to make any money or I'll have sex or anything of what's his name's the guy who did Avatar, um, and this is his. It's not his movie. He didn't direct it, but he bought the rights to it. It's a Japanese novel, and it's about this robot girl. And and it was really disappointing because that guy, he did, the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I would be back the Terminator movie, and that was really great. He did the second Alien movie, which I thought was the best one, and then he did, you know, uh, the Titanic, and then Avatar, and a whole bunch of, I mean, really great movies. And each one was always a really pushing. Meaning, I loved the second Alien movie because it had very little CGI because they didn't have the money. They made that movie for 18 million bucks, and they did everything old school with mirrors and models and it was really truly amazing how he did. He's brilliant, and I'm a cinematographer, as you can see. Right now I am, showing you my cinematographic skills, right? With virtually nothing, no CGI, no nothing. I'm putting all kinds of color and really interesting metaphor, right? Everything I got going on here is a metaphor, right? About what our subject is tonight. Anyway, Cameron, his movie was about this, dystopian world, blah, blah, blah. And basically, he's obviously on the inside now, as he's always been, because virtually all his films give people this kind of gestalt of what the powers that shouldn't be want to project as what the future's going to be. You better listen to us, or this is what's going to happen to you. You better do what we say. A metaphor inside a metaphor. That's true, Sarah. That is the illusion of Lucifer, right? And that is why, if you want to be you know, a soldier, what are we? Those who go into state, we are the. It slid away from my mind. There's the cadre. There's the chorus. There is the shock troops. Thank you very much. Shock troops of love's co-creation. And that's what polyamorous is. It's not having sex with as many people as you can. No, it's loving as many people as you can. How do you like that? Doesn't that look like Donald Trump's hair? Those bubbles. Anyway, and so that's what polyamorous is, and that's what I am. I'm a person, and that's why my male friends, I love them. You know, the guy who I went to the movies with, I love him. I care about him. No matter what state he's in, I care about him. Right. Same with JB. I care about him. I don't throw him under the bus. I don't uh, ignore him. I don't take advantage. I don't say anything mean to him because there are three rules that I rule by. You know, doctor, do no harm. I do not get involved unless I can bring forth a positive outcome. And third, I don't get involved unless I can learn something from my involvement. Yep. Warmth, fire, health, hearth, home has been my learning. And that's one of the great things. When I lived at a ashram for a year in Putney, Vermont, I gathered all the wood. I started every fire every day. The wire and all, the fire and all the hearths, the fire and all the wood stoves, the fire. We had hot wood, hot water made from um, fire, from wood. And I chopped all that wood and I stoked all those fires. And a few people would help me, but the people who thought they were above all that, that they were just coming here because they were just so hot shit, surgeons and doctors and administrators, that, they deserve people to serve them, and I served them. I had no problem with that. And in the summer and fall, I created the garden with the other four that really loved to garden, and Sensei, he loved to garden too. So most of our food, the one thing that we had an abundance of were beets. And I love beet soup, and I love beet bread, and I love beet casserole and beet, meatloaf, which we didn't have any meat in because Sensei was a vegetarian. And the rich and important folk, um, you know, you know, we get beets again. Well, they should be happy we had anything to eat. But what I loved most was serving at that ashram. Building um, the tea house, building the bathhouse, building the hambu. Because I was a good builder. I knew how to build things by that time. And I was really happy because I knew I went back to Putney, Vermont, went back to that, um, you know, ashram, and it's still there. Sensei's not there; he's passed on, but it's still there. And the energy of Sensei is there, and the buildings, everything I did. The rock garden I started, it's still there, and it's still raked in the same pattern that I started. The I built inside the Hambu, I built a garden of miniature trees, and it's still there. At least it was last time I looked in 2002. And that's what it's about, right? Yes, it's like me. When I need a few extra dollars, I just kind of dig around in my car and I'll find, anywhere from 20 to $100 every time I look. And it's usually exactly how much money I need. I had a flat tire, and I was able to drive 12 miles to the Firestone, and they gave me $120 tire for 60 bucks. And when I looked in the car for the money, that's exactly what I had. And the guy who ran the Firestone thing filled my gas tank up. So this is what life's about. If you know, have homeostasis, not just with your body, but with every, because to have homeostasis in your body, you have to have homeostasis in your heart, in your soul, in your Akashic record, right? And when you're out of balance, that is what is known as dis-ease, right? So, yep, everything is about our intentions, right? We're all fire starters. Aho. So, I would say we're at 26 minutes and 20, and just hold on a second. 4, 5, 6, 26 seconds. So I think we go into the land of Valentine, the land of that little angel with the arrow, Cupid. Let's go and see what that's about. Om, exactly, dragon. Om. Okay. So, And the thing about love is that it needs to be shared. You can't just box it up. You can't put it in jail. You can't try to, you know, if you try to hold on to something, you'll strangle it. So you have to let it go. If you want that love, you got to let it go. Right? And the more you live your life with intent of love's co-creation, then love will always be in your heart. And the fact that love is always there is the great gift of love's co-creation. It's not like, oh, you're jilting, the memory of that last, but I love that person so much, so I'll never be in love with anybody else again. No, you know. And what people do that I find is that they have an opinion and they project it on everyone else. It's just like religions, so you believe in this religious um, dogma, and then if anyone else doesn't, well, they're like Satan, and they're like got to be killed, and only God loves me, and everyone else, if you don't agree with me, needs to be dead. Well, that's not quite, the path of love's co-creation, and we just need to not be scared of not having love. You know, let love in your heart every day in every way, and let it be there. Right? So, I think our little journey is going to go back to 1971 and my going to live on Sensei, um, his you know spiritual retreat. He was a Zen Buddhist monk, and this was his monastery. A person had donated the farm to his monastery. They had known him in Japan, and they came from Vermont, but they weren't living there anymore, and they didn't need that place, and they thought, well, Sensei wants to come to America and make a beachhead, so hey, that's a good place. And then my boss, who was the head of Fort Hamilton, wanted me to study with this. He knew Sensei, and he wanted me to study with him. So I had a contract to be, working at the VA. So my boss sent me to spend a year with this guy, and it was a truly amazing place because when we got there were 12 of us, 6 guys, 6 women, and the and our sensei, right? And so basically, it was a old Vermont farmhouse. That in those farmhouses, kind of first there was the beginning house, like maybe in the 1770s, and then there was add-ons. Every 20 or so years, that somebody would add on another wing or another um, top or another this or another that. And this place had about 8 bedrooms, had no bathroom. You had to go outside to the privy. And no running water, and no electricity, and no heat. It had, in the kitchen, had a fireplace, had a wood stove, and had a wood stove. And it did have a wood hot water heater, and it did have a fireplace in the living room, and it had vents in the ceiling that went up to the bedrooms. So you get that, and it had a wood stove in the living room too. So we got there, and there someone had dumped a couple of trees worth of wood right there in front of the porch, but it wasn't split, right? And someone had not only left the wood there, but had split maybe a fifth of a cord and let a really nice. Uh, there's a thing called a maul, and there's another. It's like a gigantic axe, right? So you get your axe and you whack that log, and then the maul on one side has like a sledgehammer hammer, and on the other side it has like a wedge. Not quite an axe, but right. So once you kind of get it cut in there, you can put the maul in there and then hit it with another maul, the hammer side, and it'll split the wood. And we didn't have no hydraulic splitter, and so you know, I took it upon myself to start splitting wood. I knew, we got there in September, and I knew it was going to get cold. So started doing that, and then we started. The first thing we did was I got electricity into that house, right? So we'd have lights and other, electricity. And I wanted to get a well in there so we could have real water. And there was a well head, and there had been electricity. So I went to the utility and showed him my master electrician's card and said, "Hey, there's a meter pan there. There is a entrance head. Why don't you just put the wire back that's like rolled up on the pole and attach it, put a meter in, and I'll make it to code." And they said, "No problem." So they did, and it was, you could do that with a contractor's permit. To start off, right? And you could keep that permit for 15, 20 years. And then, if you brought it up to code, you could then grandfather everything and no problem. So I did that, got electricity on board, got things, we got started to insulate the house, and we started, September in Vermont can get cold. And everyone stayed in um, the house, and I decided there was a really nice barn. And there was actually a nice apartment in that barn, and I decided to live in the barn. It was roomy, it was nice. It There was actually a septic tank because they had a dairy farm there, and they had to have a septic tank to wash away the cow stuff in the milking house. And so I, brought water there. I got a, you know, a electric well pump put in the well head. We got running water, and it first went into that barn, and then it went into the farmhouse, into the kitchen, right? Because I could run the gray water out, but not the septic. People pretty much had to. I put two toilets downstairs and one in my apartment. And if people wanted to walk out and use the toilet, they could. Otherwise, they had to use the privy. And the rich guys who thought they were hot stuff would give me a hard time. "Well, why don't you put a toilet?" And Sensei said, "No, we until, it's not right to put the toilet in the house. What we need to do is build a bathhouse so we can bathe, so we can clean our aura, and we can put our elimination point there." And so that's what we did. That was kind of the first thing we built was the bathhouse. And the next thing, at the same time, we built a tea house because all we did was we basically made a gazebo, right? A platform, a raised platform, and a nice roof over the side. And we put, I found this amazing roll of, really thick plastic that they would use on awnings. And that's what we made the walls out of the tea house. And it was beautiful because it was like being out there in the woods. and and it was amazing. So, but the first days we pretty much lived pretty rough. And the one rich guy left. I'm the head of a hospital. I don't have to stand this. So he left. And another guy, he left within 2 weeks because he couldn't, pretty much we all worked, and he worked the least, and he felt the worst about, he felt, and he kept projecting all his guilt on other people. And Sensei was the best shrink I ever met, and he would just take us all apart because to free oneself, to have access to ascension to your conscious free will, you had to take yourself apart. You really had to view what was going on. And so by the fourth, before the first month, Before October, three people had left, and they were all guys. So there were six women and two guys, me and another guy, and he was quite interesting. And I was the youngest, and there were six women, and they were amazing. And so we became the sensei's cadre. And as we uncovered ourselves like an onion, skin by skin by skin, we all became more open to each other. And we would do this. We would have group meditation. We would have evening meditations where we'd walk through the forests with our eyes, masked so we couldn't see. So we had to put out our field about 10 feet out so we wouldn't walk off a cliff or into a tree or get a branch in the face. And it was amazing. And by doing that as a cadre, we became amazingly close. And not only that, we became telepathic with each other. Because one of the things we did as adepts in Sensei's Hambu was that we talked as little as possible. Sensei talked, we listened. And so we became intimate with each other without having sex. We were in each other's hearts and minds by the second month. And we everyone basically, except Sensei, because he had his own, temple in the farmhouse, and that's what it became. We had the living room, we had the kitchen, and we had a dining room. And until we built the Hambu, that's all. By the end of October, everyone moved into the farm, and we all slept together. And we all kind of puddled. That's what we would call it. We had a gigantic bed, and we all slept with each other. Right? Now, we didn't have sex. Some of us, once in a while, did. There was one woman who I really sparked with, Judy, and so she and I became a thing. And all the other girls were happy for that, right? And there was, the other young man. He pretty much serviced the rest of the girls when they wanted servicing, right? And we would go to the Holiday Inn once every 3 weeks on the Friday, which was the big hookup night. And everyone would, I didn't drink, so everyone but me kind of got buzzed and would hook up. And that was fine, Sensei thought that kind of, thing was fine. As long as your intent, everything was about intent, was what it was about. And as time went by, folks didn't do that as much, and yep, when you connect energetically, there's nothing like it. And what's really amazing is, like the cadre has done, has the chorus has done, has the shock troops have done, is that within the construct of those three dynamics, we have all energetically hooked up. That's why this is so amazing. That's why you guys and gals and all my relations here are stepping up to your conscious of your free will. You're no longer stuck. Yes, you're not, perfect masters, but you're ascending. You're working on it. You see what's going on. You see the difference. You see how you've changed. You see that every day you feel pretty good. No matter what the situation is, it's like, okay. So that's what Valentine's Day should be every day, 365. What was this here? What? When you connect energetically, there's nothing like it. Yep. Yep. Damn right. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're speeding. I thought caffeine. Uh-huh. Not now. Was, but I'm sober. Okay, I can't do that shit. I spin out. Yep, yep. And that's the bottom line of any substance. If you need it, then you shouldn't do it. If you want to try it a little bit, it's not a sin. But if you can't, just okay. And if it owns you, if it controls you, well, that's a substance you shouldn't be doing. My name was Puddles. Yep, yep. And it was so sweet, especially as it got cold. We had, I had a fireplace and I had a wood stove, and I had insulated that room that we all slept in amazingly well. And it really doesn't take much to, a few layers of, you go buy a couple of bags of those point 0.8 millimeter um, paint drop cloths, and you get spray adhesives, and you kind of spray it up and put the plastic up, and then you spray another thing on top of that, and you get 3 or 4 layers with an air barrier between, and it can be 20 degrees below zero outside, and you can keep it 60 on the inside with just a few logs in the wood stove, right? And that you have the same thing over your head, so you know your ceiling, the ceiling in the barn was like 20 feet high, but I stretched these plastic things 8 feet above the floor, and then put another one about 6 inches above that, and another one 6 inches above that, and that kept all the heat in there. And I kept a little hose from the outside that went through a chamber in the wood stove and kicked out warm air, but it came from outside, so there was oxygen from out there. And I had another um, basic hose at the floor level, um, taking air out. So the air was quite fresh in that space, and it was always, when it was 14 degrees below zero outside and 10 feet of snow, it'd be 60 in there with just 5 or 6 logs in there, right? And we'd have, the 8 or so bodies all kind of puddled up, and I had nice foam, and then a nice denim um, sheet, big piece of it that we all kind of slept on. We all had our little pillows, and we had a couple of sheets on top of that, and then a couple of quilts from these old ladies that we bought that we sewed together, so it covered everybody. And it was unbelievably toasty and warm and just snug as a bug, and that's what polyamorous is. That right there, not wild and crazy orgy sex, and that's kind of, I don't know if anyone's experienced that, but I was from the disco days, and it was not, it was useless. It was empty. I never, experienced it a few times, but I saw a lot of it, because I kept, going. I had a contract with about 20 different discos in the early 70s and late 70s and early 80s, where I would have to go by and check them out. Every night, I have to make sure all the exit lights work and all the things that if an inspector just bopped in, they could, pick up a couple $1,000 bribe to not close the place down, because these clubs, they made 20, $30,000. Studio 54 used to make 50 grand a night. And that's because it was a house of debauchery. Down in the basement, Roy Cohen and Donnie and other folks of that ilk were having most useless sex. And I had totally carte blanche to go check things out. And bottom line, the 70s and 80s were the most debauched, and now they still are, but they're institutionalized. Now people wear robes. That movie Eyes Wide Shut is kind of what it is. Yeah, Beatrix Potter. And that's, cultural norms. I mean, back in the day of the Roman Empire, they would send the Roman centurions out, and their thing is the bedroll, their uniform, their armor, their sword, their spear, and their little boy. They sent, because much better that you'd have your clean little boy to bugger than have to screw around with the natives. And and that's why the Catholic Church put down the dogma of that all priests had to be celibate, because those guys, they were like rock stars, and they would screw everything in sight and knock a whole bunch of chicks up, and then the chicks would want the church to support them and the kids, and the church wanted a plausible deniability, so they said that all priests were basically celibate, but they weren't. They were screwing everything in sight. And basically, every ministry, every church, every religion, the people who represent that business plan are the most corrupt in around in the community. Now, there are individuals who are really like saints, and no matter what their uh, you know preferences are, they basically do no harm. And those people are usually the ones who get lambasted first, because they're doing something great for the community and doing a service, and the church doesn't, for a little while that's fine, but if they keep doing it, they go after them big time. Because when you compare someone of that ilk to a bishop or a cardinal who's buggering a little boy, um, 5 or 6 times a week, and then selling the child for body parts, that's when they can't have people who are saintly around them. Sex is overrated. It is. It's just a biological urge, and it's like sugar, meaning if you don't jack off 20 times a day, you don't need, to do it, right? And then it's like very pleasing when someone who's special comes in your field and you can spark with them. Then it's like that's love's co-creation. And the thing about our sexual energy, if we, like 2 years after my second wife died, yes, I was not interested. I was sad, but, I didn't lock myself away. I didn't say, for 10 years, I'm waiting for my second wife to come back from the dead. No, that was not going to happen. So, first 2 years, I sat and reposed, but I didn't, cut myself off. That's, I was involved in art, and I was involved in the homestead movement. I was involved in the anti-nuclear movement. I was involved in the environmental movement, and I had loads of friends, and I stayed with them. I hung out with them. We had loads of fun, and they took care of me. You know, they were kind and considerate, and for those 2 years, we had a great time. But they knew I was sad, and they would try and not remind me of what I was sad about, and always give me something to distract me with a project or this or that. And by the second year, I went back to Ireland, and I also went to Brazil, and I had romances there, and basically they were great romances. But those people, their ulterior motive is what they wanted to marry me. My doctor girlfriend in Brazil wanted me to marry her so she can come back to America and she could get away from her Nazi father, and she could have she wanted to move to L.A. and get a liposuction practice. Anyway, so I mean, I love being her boyfriend, and I loved hanging out there. And she was, of all the women I could hang with in Buzios, she was the best one because she, like me, wasn't having sex with lots of people. She was kind of celibate because she was looking for, you know, that's kind of at the height of AIDS, and this was a party town, and she was kind of she wanted to get out of there, so she wasn't going to share, give the milk of the cow, right? And so but once we hooked up, we had 4 months of bliss. We really, really hit it off, had a great time. She loved being the girlfriend of Rick, the guy who ran the most whoop-de-doo disco, and was Madame, Jabba the Hutt's pet. Too many women, not enough. No, there's enough time. You know, it's all about when it's supposed to happen. So I haven't really had a girlfriend um, in the last since 2014, give or take. Oh, yeah, right. Now I've had a few fun little interludes, meaning, oh, when was it? I guess it was 2016, maybe. I think so. I sold the place to John. I was here, and then I kind of, went to the deep green, and I went to my friends in West Virginia, and I was coming back, and I was coming down 77, and 77 comes down from the capital of West Virginia, and it comes down the mountains towards 81, which goes down along the valley. And as I was coming down, I had this unbelievable view of this, like, these tornadoes coming through the valley, and I was listening to the sirens going off on my radio saying, take, but where I was, it was a beautiful day. I mean, it was sunny and still warm, but 200 miles in front of me, I could see really nasty weather, and I was heading towards it, right? And I was calling for really nasty weather in Blacksburg and Roanoke, and that's right where I was heading for. So I was looking for a place to pull off and spend the night, and as I'm come up to a sign, and it says hotel, right? So I go, okay, this is fortuitous. I'm just thinking about I should get off the road and find a place to get out of harm's way, and this looks like it. So I come down, and I got on this road, and it's a your basic county road, not a farm road, but a county road, double yellow line, and I draw, and it says hotel. It's got an arrow that way. It doesn't say how many miles. So I turn to the left and I head that way, and there's nothing. Just rolling hills of the beautiful West Virginia, and a couple of farms here and there. And I go about 15 miles, and I look at my gas gauge, and I'm going, I got about 40, 50 miles worth of gas. If I keep going, I might run, what should I do? And, I looked towards the back, and the sky's turning black. I look in front of me, it's still blue skies and sunny. So I said, well, I'm like open minded to what the universe is telling me. So I keep going. I go around a few corners, and bingo, there is a Shell gas station with a diner, and behind it, a motel. I go, okay. So I go and fill my vehicle up to the brim, and sit down and have myself a breakfast. This diner has breakfast all the time, my kind of breakfast place, and I have a steak and an omelet and a few other French fries and tater tots and some vegetables and a bunch of milk, and I get a chocolate milkshake, and I pour coffee into it, and I'm having a great meal, right? And then I get some of this food packed up, that I'd ordered. I don't eat, whenever I go to a restaurant, I don't eat everything. I try to spread it out to 3 or 4 meals. And so then I go and there's no cars, so I'm thinking, oh, this place is totally, open, like I'll not have a problem to get a place. And so I go in, and the guy looks at me, he looks a little hairy, and he's an Indian guy, and he goes, "Oh, you're a lucky man. You're looking for a room." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "I got one left." I said, "One left? There's no cars out there." He goes, "No, there are all these hipster kids who came off the AT. That's our biggest. The AT is just behind us, and they come here and they want to have a bed and a shower and not a problem. So I have one room left, and it's all yours." So I sign myself up, give him the credit card, sign in, and I get in my car and I go to park. He goes, "It's the other end, so you just park down there, and there's a door there. You can go right into your room. You don't have to walk, here and then down the hallway." I go, "Okay, that's great." So I basically go and I'm listening to Moby, one of his more gangsterish tunes, and I got it turned all the way up. And it's summer, so I had the windows down, and it's like echoing out all over the parking lot. And I pull up to this place to park near the door, and there is this really, she's probably 25 to 30 young woman who's dressed in the most diaphanous, pinkish, greenish. It's like this mini skirt that's like film, and it's pink, but it has yellow and green big flowers on it. And she is low cut bodice, and she's not wearing any nothing. That's it. She's got this thrown over her, and she's got flip flops on, and she's smoking a cigarette. And so I look at her and go, this is an interesting young lady. So I kind of get out of my car and I open the door so the speakers are pointed towards her and the music is like, and she starts kind of getting up and dancing around to the music. And I come over and I'm kind of swiveling my hips, and my dogs are with me and they're swiveling their hips. And she goes, "Oh, they're so cute." And she's, Bella, and Homer is like, he is just the love bunny. He just like is licking her and hugging her and just nuzzling her. And she goes, "I just love this dog." And I said, "Yeah, that's Homer. He's my boy. And this is his mom, Bella." And she kind of looks at her and goes, "Okay, whatever." And she just goes under a tree and goes to sleep. So I go, "Can I have one of your cigarettes?" And she goes, "Oh, sure, please have a cigarette." And I sit down and we start smoking and talking. And she goes, "Everyone in there is so boring. They're all so PC. They're all so, no one smokes. They all, think I smell of tobacco, and everyone's giving me a hard time, and I'm not having any fun here." And I said, "So what's your story?" And she goes, "Well, I'm from Atlanta, and I just finished medical school, and I have a gig at a hospital in Boston. And in that hospital, I get one parking spot. And I'm hitchhiking up to Maine and camping and this, I'm going to be, in this hospital and working as a doctor for the next 5 years. Uh, I decided to take 2 months between, graduating medical school and starting this job and have this adventure and have a really great time. And that way, the 5 years will not feel such a drudge because and it's been great. And the AT is like one big conga line. I've had a really amazing time. And here we are in Tennessee, and no, West Virginia, and so I'm wanting to take a shower. Da da da. There's big storms coming, so I saw this on the map and came here. And you know, when I could get a cell signal, I made a reservation, and I got a nice room. And I said, "So is it on the first or second floor?" And she goes, "Oh, second floor." I said, "Well, I'm on the first floor, right at the front door there." She goes, "Oh, that's nice. That's good. You get in and out." Anyway, we spoke and we danced, and we kind of sparked for a good hour, and then it was sunny the whole freaking time. And I said, "Well, let's," I was like looking at the sky, and it was sunny over us, right? And I said, "Look over there. I think we should get in." She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, let's." So I need some help because at that time I was still pretty gimpy. And so she helped me with my big bag of food and booze and all the stuff I had gotten at that store. And the little place I had a hot, plate and a microwave and a refrigerator. So we put all the wine, because it was mostly wine. I'm a wine drinker. I drink anything if I don't have patties. And so we said, "Oh, that's cool." And I said, "Why don't you come down to dinner, and we can have dinner, nice evening dinner, you know?" And she goes, "Oh, I got some stuff I can bring." And I said, "Fine, good, sounds great." So she comes down, and again, she's still wearing her slinky um, outfit, and she brings down. She has a nice little pipe with something to put in it, and I have the back room, so we can crack a window, and no one's going to be over that part of the place, and you know no one will really smell it. So we got a nice little thing going on. I make a dinner, really nice dinner, and the Indian guy, I go talk to him. I said, "Do you have any curry? Do you have any?" And he gave me all these great Indian spices, and I made a great curried dinner, right? And so she is like loving it. She's drinking the wine. We are just having the sweetest, nicest time. And then the door knocks, and I open up, and there's three or four people, and they go, "Wow, that food smells so good." And I said, "Yeah, okay. You guys want some? You got anything? Let's cook some more." So the guy, one of the guys who knocked on the door, was actually the room next to me, and the door between our doors. Um, you know, we unlocked them, and now the two rooms were open to each other, and those rooms, six of those rooms on our side were connected, so you could, have a big suite if you wanted it. Anyway, open it up, and there's 12 people in those six rooms, and we have one gigantic frigging party, right? And we're dancing, and people got guitars, and they got loads of things to share to, alter your perspective. They didn't like cigarettes, but you could smoke almost. They were very ridiculously prejudiced in their opinions, and I didn't get in their face, but I was, their sensei Al Bob, and I was trying to get them to, see um, what this was about and what polyamorous, because we were talking about it, because everyone was, wow, we feel so good because we had a little X, and I didn't take any, but they all did, and they were really getting, I did a number of guided meditations which blew their frigging minds, and we were having the best of all times. And the young lady, she was sitting in the couch, and I went over. I said, "So, what's up, baby?" She goes, "Well, it's all good. You've got these people. It's nice. The food was good. I'm really enjoying this, and I wish you could take some." And I said, "Well, you want me to take some? Not a problem." So I went and asked one of the guys, and so I took a little bit, and so we got a little more amorous. So we were on the couch, making out, and we had like a bubble around us. And she goes, and other people were being amorous, and it was and all the doors were open, even open into the hallways, and the Indian guy just didn't come down that that end of the hotel. And so that young lady invited me up to her place. She goes, "No, there's no one at this party. All the people in this place are down on this floor at this party. Wouldn't you like a little?" I said, "Yeah, let's go up." And so we grabbed a couple of bottles of champagne from my fridge, and somebody had a bottle of brown stuff, and little green stuff, and pipe, and we went up uh, to her place, and she had a jacuzzi, and I love jacuzzis, and she was, well to do, you know she's going to be a surgeon. She, came from pretty, she was not worrying about money. And so she got the nicest room she could in that place, and she liked. So we spent the rest of the evening in the jacuzzi, snuggling in the bubbles, and drinking the bubbly, and just having the nicest, sweetest, most romantic time you could. And we had no sex. The most we did was kiss and fondle a little bit, right? And anyway, I said, "So you want to come visit where I live?" And she goes, "No, I'm gonna go back out on the AT. It's supposed to be really nice for the next 2 weeks, so um, And we exchanged, addresses, and I wrote her, a letter, and I never heard from her again. But about a year later, she called me, because I have the same phone number for the last 25 years. And she called me, and we had a very nice conversation. She goes, "Do you want to come up to Boston?" And at the time, I couldn't quite. And I said, "No, but maybe at another time." And because that's when I had sold the place to John, and I was moving my stuff out, and other things were going on. And anyway, so that was, so that's the last I've really had a close encounter with Eros. Now, I've had plenty of encounters with affection, with to be amorous, right? And I'm polyamorous every day. But, people, when I say that, they, "Oh, you're such, what, you sleep with anybody all the time?" No, that isn't what polyamorous is. And that's not what love is. Love isn't ownership, isn't, "Oh, I own you for the rest of eternity. And, you know, John keeps going that, I'll never find anyone because my second wife was my only true love. Well, that's not true. I've had many loves since then, and many of them were as true as my second wife. But I wasn't, they all wanted to get married and have children. I wasn't really ready to do that. I'm kind of ready, anybody wants to do that now. And once your old son say, "Oh, Bob, hey, I'm up for that. My heart is open." And it wouldn't be like, I was dissing my second wife or anybody else I loved, because everybody's different. And I have a lot of space in my heart for lots of people I care about. Just because I love someone doesn't mean that's it for me. No. If I'm involved with someone, I'm monogamous because, I want to enjoy and experience and be fulfilled in that relationship. And if you're fooling around in a relationship, well, you're not experiencing it. You know? And, the Catholic Church, I grew up as a Catholic. Biggest thing was, the guilt sin. You may be married, have a wife, but if you're thinking about, the cute neighbor while you're banging your wife, well, that's a mortal sin. No, it's not just a mortal sin. It's stupid because you can't enjoy what you got right in your arms and your hands and who you're with, and you might as well be 100%. And usually, what happens is you get involved, you get married, and you feel hamstrung, or you feel in jail, or you feel I don't want to do this. Why should I do that? Why should I do this with that person? Well, you should do it because it makes you happy by making someone else happy, right? And that's what I've done my whole life. I've had many loves in my life, and they were all special because they were all different. They weren't the same. There's a great scene in the Woody Allen movie Manhattan, no, Annie Hall, where he falls in, this woman Annie Hall falls in love with him, and she's way outside his what he usually gets, and he falls in love with her, and she falls in love with the fact that he loves her. And at a certain point in their life, for about 3 years, it's amazing because he is sharing his whole self with her unconditionally, and she's learning things, growing, becoming bigger, smarter, all of the things that he wants of her, and she's becoming it. And then she gets to this point when she goes, "Well, it's time to move on," and she moves to L.A. and starts living with Paul Simon, and they don't call him that, but he's like 4 feet shorter than she is, and about a foot shorter than you know Woody is. Anyway, Woody, so she goes there, and he's like calling her all the time, and, "Oh, please come back, please, 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 please. Oh, I'll do it. We should be together. If there's all that blah." And she goes, "I love you, But I'm moving forward. I'm ascending my consciousness to my free will, and I thank you for all you've done for me. But no, the time that we had is no more, and she's moved on. Well, he can't move on, so he gets new girlfriends, and he tries to do the same shit with them as he did with Annie. Well, it's not funny. It's not hilarious. It's not sexy. It's not. It's like the girls look at him and get bored and walk away. And so if you are just sock yourself into just, oh, I can only be with one person, she's the only one, and then you castigate other people because they let others in their life and they won't, incarcerate themselves in their misery like you do, and you blame them for your misery. Uh, Sorry, Now, if you want to do that, hey, knock yourself out. Everyone has a free will. They can do whatever they want. And my job isn't to change any of that or change your opinion or make you, no. Everyone has an opinion just like an asshole. And they both smell about the same. Whereas if you have an open mind and allow other people's thoughts and worldviews to come in contact with yours, that's where you grow, right? Mountain Jade bookends. I like that, Jade. Yep, so many doors. Yep, yep. True happiness comes with making others happy. Yep. So, 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 14 seconds. So, how about I want to take you place to Eros, the dowry, the Irish tradition. Yep. Remember, Dragon, as long as you don't need it, it's okay to taste it, right? As long as it doesn't bring you pain, it's okay. As long as, remember the three rules: doctor, heal thyself, do no harm, um, don't get involved unless you can have a positive outcome, don't get involved unless you can learn something. So, if you can learn something, get a positive outcome, and not hurt yourself, then, whatever you want to do, you know. Yep, everything has a season. I love that song. Turn, turn, turn. Tangents change the future. Exactement. Oy. Yep, tangerines change the future. Well, Jane, if you like to sleep whenever you want to, remember, go into state. 20, breathe in 20%, 30 out. And go into your Akashic record and go on long journeys, other planets, go into your garden and go through the roots of the tree of knowledge. See it clearly, you know? So I'm going to take you guys here. Here we already are in dreamland. Well, just wake up, Jane. You can enjoy the good parts of sleep, but don't be unconscious, as you're wasting your life then. So everyone get in a comfortable spot. Put your avatar in a place where it's safe and secure, and start breathing in 20%. See it clearly. And one, you're going into a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is now totally focused on your breath, breathing in 20% and out 30%. You're breathing in that prana, and you're grounding it in your chi. The prana is the life force that gives your avatar animation. See it clearly. Going deeper and deeper into that state of relaxation, so that swirl in the cage of your mind's card catalog can just go to sleep, so you won't be going on and on and on about useless crap. See it clearly. Going deeper and deeper into that state of relaxation. See it clearly. And two, that light that you are creating, that photonic light that is being created by as your blood flows through your lungs and then gets carried full of that prana. It is swirling through your veins, your arteries, your capillaries, and there's a clockwise swirl around the inside of your veins, and inside of that swirl is a counterclockwise swirl, and inside of that is a clockwise swirl, and it is creating the alternating current of the scalar energy that is your prana, and is bringing photonic light to your imaginary mirror. Good man, dragon. Keep it up. Going into a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. And I want you to take that photonic light from your imaginary mirror, and you're shining it into your Akashic record. It's not the scary place. Your subconscious isn't the scary place. It's simply a library. A library of your soul's total reality. See it clearly. As you walk into your Akashic record, you see the fireplace of the eternal flame. And next to it, in front of it, are these beautiful leather chairs for guests. And in front of that is your reading desk, and behind that is your reading chair. And above you is the photonic light coming in, no shadows. And to your left is your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel. See them clearly. Remember them. Your librarian brings you the information in your Akashic records. Your animal totem's there to help you understand what you see, and your guardian angel is always there to protect your back. So I want you to take your librarian brings you your Akashic record. You open the book, and you take your right hand, you put it on the right page. You take your left hand, and you put it on your left page. And then you lean into your Akashic record, and you eliminate all of your anger, all of your fear, all of your negative feelings into your Akashic record, and empty them out of you. Evacuate all the negative energy of the Luciferian illusion of the material world. All of those negative thoughts, just let them go. And as you do, you rise up like a bubble. Feel yourself just, just, just in the most amazing sensory field. And you go into you kind of float up and you go through the doorway to your superconscious mind. And that's your sanctuary of your own choosing. And you go over the bridge, which is your id, and at the top you're looking down and you get the overstanding view of who and what you are and what you're doing here in this universe. And you're seeing that you're here to learn, to experience. And that's why love is so important. You're not just supposed to hold, like death's grip onto whatever love comes your way for eternity. No, you're there to experience all the love you can feel. And love is not senseless, useless, eros, which is basically masturbation. Masturbation. Life isn't about watching porno and getting off, because you normally don't even get off. You stay there hours upon hours looking from one porno site to the next, and one magazine to the next, one book to the next, and you never really get excited because you don't have that human connection. You don't have that spark. You don't have that dynamic of love's co-creation. See that clearly. Well, good. If you have no negative energy to evacuate, that's great. And I assume you've evacuated a great deal of negative energy over the weeks. And I suggest that you all, at your own leisure, go back and take a good look at everything in your Akashic records, especially the last 3 lives that we looked at a couple of nights ago, right? Between 1790 and today. And there's about 3 lives that you all have had. And you've all experienced your life review, right? Oh, look at that. A bubble beard, a bubble beard. I got a bubble beard. There it is, a bubble beard. But this evening, we are going to go into our superconscious mind, our sanctuary of our own choosing. We're walking off the bridge. Our feet are going there, and we feel love's unconditional co-creation, because that's where love exists in us, in our superconscious mind, right? So I want you to go over past the meadow that is, right there with the gazebo in front. And to the east is the tree of knowledge and the lake of the link, the great lake. And to the west is the fun house, right? Up on the hill above the meadow and above the tree of knowledge, you go up that hill of the meadow, and at the top is our house of the Oracle of Delphi. That looks like, the house that Frank Lloyd Wright designed called Flowing Water. And the doors, the big 40-foot doors saying, know thyself over those doors. But when you go to the west, there's this big circus with all these amusements and rides and all kinds of things. And there's the big top, and then there are all these small tents. And they got hoochie coochie girls and all kind, the fun house and the scary house, and there is the ride of love, right? And there's the house of Eros, and there is the house
of plutocratic love, right? And there is the house of the polyamorous, right? And they're all kind of connected. You go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, right? So let us all walk into that funhouse where everything, all these funny mirrors, and we're seeing ourselves in all these disordered colors and shapes, and we see things we can identify, keep up with the vibes. Excellent. Funhouse. Yep. And there are floors that pitch and yawn, that spin us around, that make us dizzy, that do all these kind of things to our limited senses, that kind of take us out of that comfortable zone. But we still think it's fun. Meaning we're not scared. We feel safe, but it's taking us out of our prejudice. It is opening us up to our higher consciousness and our free will, the ability to choose freely other things than what we are told, other than the dogmas that we grew up under, above the, you know, mud puppet reality, right? And that's what the funhouse does. It clears us of our mud puppet consciousness, our mud puppet worldview. And it spins all that mud off and it kind of cleanses us, right? So we kind of then go from the funhouse to the scary house. Ooh. And again, this is something that, things pop out, things, growl, things go bump in the night, but we realize that they just are wearing red sneakers and the shoelaces are tied together. So all you have to do is like go and run away, and they come and chase you and they fall over and they can't get up. Right? So this kind of shows you, crud puppet, I like that, yep. This shows you that there's nothing to be scared of. The world is not a scary place. It's not a place of abandonment. It's not a place of lacking or separation, right? Which is the world that we are brought into. It's the world of red shoes. That's right, Jane. And I'm sure you look old. Do you have all those red shoes, Jane? You got them in your closet? Are you a shoe girl? I'm always drawn to shoe girls. Or feet girls. I like feet girls too. Um, and dancers. I'm a dancing boy. I'm a cripple. My feet aren't attached to my ankles, but I can still dance. Not as much as I used to be able, but I can still do it. I'm still a dancing fool. Too dirt poor. There's always Goodwill. I buy some really nice stuff at Goodwill for $2 and $3. And everything, whenever I need something, I go to Goodwill and exactly what I needed. Like I wanted a orange juice squeezer, and I went in there and there was a brand spanking new, still in the box, still in the plastic, under $1. It was 58 cents. I had no idea, who put that thing on there, but it was 58 cents. I went to the guy, 58 cents. I gave him 58 cents and I had myself an orange squeezer. And that's the one that was in JB's uh, grand video of food, right? His little, the secret of the diet. And he basically showed me squeezing orange juice and said that was, deadly, too much sugar. Now, I don't quite understand that because I took 3 oranges and I sliced them in half and then I squeezed them, and the same material that's inside those skins were now juice. And I couldn't see how those 3 oranges were more deadly than if I peeled them and ate the slices. because that juicer is pretty amazing. It takes even the about 89% of the physical pulpiness of the orange and turns it into juice, meaning that's why I love freshly squeezed orange juice because it's got all this pulp in it. Anyway, and that again is someone's opinion. And they can have that opinion if they want to manifest it in their own life, but to castigate and blame and point fingers of judgment is like, that's part of the scary house. The scary house shows us things that are like that. And the scary house should be showing us the things like that that give us the perspective, oh, I don't want to be the monster myself. I don't want to be the cruel, um, you know, you know, jerk, as JB would say. Um, no, because in reality, no matter how cruel and mean and awful you are to someone else, in actuality, you're being 1,000 times mean and cruel to yourself by doing that. Yeah, but that's processed orange juice. Squeezing it is just, you know, taking it from those little slices into a juice that I love to drink. And I don't eat a whole bag of them. And I bought John maybe 80 oranges and tangerines last, I guess it was last Saturday or Monday, one or the other, maybe Monday, and it's all gone. And I've only had 3 oranges. That's what I'm talking about. The scary house is the scare. It's showing you that scary part of yourself. And usually we don't want to hear that. We don't want to know about it. You know. Overflow kindness. Yep. Of the nervous riches of the bourgeois. Well, I understand exactly what you're talking about because when I had the physical abilities, whatever town I was in, there was the uh, the nervous rich bourgeois neighborhood, and I would just go through with my truck, and they would throw the furniture and the light fixtures and everything out. I remember once in New York City, I was driving by with my truck, and I stopped, and I got in one place there was this gigantic, beautiful um, white, white and black enameled, um, bathtub that had lion claws on it that were gold, and it was about 4 foot deep, and it was about 6 feet long. You could stick 5 people in there easy, and man, it was you fill it up with hot water and just float on top. It was great. And along with that bathtub was a what was back in the '60s called an entertainment center. It was a gigantic, large, colored TV tube and a stereo player, a radio, and great JBL speakers. And they threw it away. There was nothing wrong with it. And I had a friend with me, and we kind of, muscled both these things up and to the truck, and we brought them back to my loft in Williamsburg. And that entertainment center was the best. It was like the amazing thing. And I soldered a RF thing so I could hook a VCR up to the sucker, and it was definitely the entertainment center, and and that bathtub I put right in the middle of the loft because when we had parties, we'd all who wanted to would strip off the clothes and get in the bathtub together, and it had no drain. That side of the building had no drain, and so I would empty the water from the bathtub out onto the 3,000 square foot floor, and then we'd brush the floor down, and that's how I would take a shower once or twice a week, and I would wash the floor once or twice, and it would be like maybe 15 gallons of water, but you let it out, and I had a hose coming out of the drain with a nozzle that I could, turn on and off, and I put down some soap and hit the water, and then I had a big brush, and I brush it, and then I hit it with some more water, and I move the water basically to the corners, to the walls of the the loft, and the water would drool down between the brick and the floor and go down the wall of the loft down below, which was an abandoned space, right? Jane, I'm going to use that. I live in the outflow kindness of nervous riches of the bourgeois. If only they overflowed more. Yep, pretty much. I notice that nobody really knows what we should really eat. I just eat intuitively. And then perfect. That's all you got to do. And not too much. Everything is about moderation. So you do moderation, you'll be fine. It's when you eat whole loaves of white, bread and drink bottles of, olive oil. Uh, yeah, I bet you Vancouver is a great grounds. Like Jane said, it's the land of guilty bourgeois. That's right, G. I like it. Reduce, reuse. I reuse everything. All those plastic bags I get from the supermarket, I use them 5, 10 times. You know, and until they kind of fall apart. And then if they go into the landfill, they'll definitely fall apart. Right. I like that, Jane. Eat what you crave and crave healing foods that make you feel better. Exactly. Like, since I had those teeth pulled, I really haven't eaten very much since last Tuesday. A week ago, this last Tuesday. Now, today's Thursday. A week ago, the last Tuesday. So that's 7, 8, 9 days. So 9 days, I haven't really eaten that much because I haven't felt hungry. But I have had an omelet here and an omelet there. I have had, you know, um, some nice meals that people had taken me to restaurants to have, and then I kind of took most of it with me and made other meals the next days after. And I think food the next day after is much better than I surely know that when I make things. Like right now, I made a really nice stir fry for JB and me, and I put half of it into the crock pot because it'll make a great stew for the next few days, right? And now I eat that pretty much on a regular basis because it's very yummy. And every day, the next day, it's better and better and better. And basically, if it doesn't come out of a brand new package, like you know, JB has taken basically all the dishes upstairs and all the forks and knives because I make something and then he puts it on a plate and takes it upstairs and leaves it up there in the sink and doesn't clean it. And then I have to go up there and clean his kitchen and everything. And then I take a few forks and spoons and cups. And I have purchased a number of cups and plates and like I purchased, I don't know, six, no, not six, four $6 can openers because the one thing the Dollar Tree doesn't, they have can openers, but they don't work too good. So you go to Kroger's and get a $6 can opener. It works really great every time. There's no muss, no fuss. But every time I buy one, it disappears upstairs, and then when it gets dirty, John throws it away. So he's thrown three or more, can openers, and I look for them, And when I go wash his, that's one of the reasons I go up there to wash his dishes and start his fire for him and clean up his apartment. Um, because it makes his life better, so he's not as distraught, and I find the utensils I need that I purchased at the Dollar Tree to cook food with, right? And so anyway, it's okay, right? It's if that's the little thing that John's going on in his Rolodex, then that's I have no I go. That's why I go up and clean things. To okay, there's the can opener, and I brought it down. Again, right? But it's just an observation of look at this, and so that is the scary house. Those observations, and we should look at ourselves, right? Now there are people like JB, who is the canary in the coal mine, who represents so much stuff that you can go, wow, look at that. That's amazing. So, um, so the next house we're going to go in is at the end of the the scary house, and so I want you all to. I'm going to be quiet for a moment or two, and I'm just going to let the bubbles and the fun lights kind of make interesting patterns while you guys are in state in your superconscious mind, the sanctuary of your own choosing, and you're off to the west part where the fun park is, and you're going through first the fun house and then the scary house, and I want you to see it from both of those imageries, the thing that you can laugh about yourself and the thing that could scare you about yourself. See it clearly. And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. You've illuminated yourself with photonic light through your breathing in deeply 20% more than regularly of the prana and grounding yourself in your chi. And in every day and every way, you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger. And you are in the amusement park of your superconscious mind, having a great time with love's co-creation. You feel enlightened. You feel energized. You feel that total amazing feeling of love in your heart. That clarity, that that generosity, that grace that love is. It's not a selfish thing. It's not a thing that you restrict others. It's not a thing that you force your opinion of your worldview on anyone else, because you're free. You're free to exercise your free will instead of you being restricted by the constructions and constrictions of Luciferian fear. You're letting all that fear, that anxiety, all those disappointments, just let them go. See it clearly. And in every day and every way, you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger with love's co-creation. In the name of our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And every day take that piece of the earth and you make it stronger with love's co-creation. See it clearly. And Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, not only now in the hour of our death. Amen. See it clearly. See that love, that unconditional love, that love's co-creation. See that love in your heart that you have for all of your relations. See that you have no fear, no anxiety, no sense of separation, no sense of isolation, because you are part of the cadre, you are part of the chorus, and you are a shock troop of love's co-creation. See it clearly. And in every day, in every way, take that piece of the earth and make it stronger. See it clearly. And now you're traveling from the scary house, so the fun house, and you see all those things you laugh at yourself at, and then you see all those things that could scare you, that you're thinking about. Well, all of these things that scare me about myself have nothing to do with a free choice. I'm being forced to act this way. So I have to start thinking freely, thus letting go of all these anxieties and fears and negative reinforcements. I'm going to let them all go. See it clearly. And you're traveling from those two houses into the house of love, right? And you're getting into a boat with love's co-creation, and you're arm in arm, and you sit down on these nice cushiony seats in this nice boat that is traveling through the river of love, right? And you smell all these amazing floral scents, and you have all of these savory tastes, and you just see all of these amazing sights that bring this warm, fulfilling, connecting sense to your heart. And this golden thread rises up from your heart chakra all the way through your chakras above and out through the oracle point of your third eye up into the heavens. That is the golden thread of your Akashic record. See it clearly. You are what you absorb. Well, I would say more your illusion is what you allow yourself to absorb by negating your free will, by bending to the Luciferian fear and anxiety. That's what we absorb, because the love that we are is what we are. It's not a false motif of like working out and having a cut abs, or being thin, or what anyone projects on you to be what you are. That's not who you are. Be the beauty you love. Exactly, Ink. So you're going on that beautiful little path of love, in that boat, arm in arm with love's co-creation. See it clearly. Just be you. Yep. Just be you. And as you go down the path of love, you see all the different kinds of loves that are true, and all the different types of eros, which are just representations of rotating the device. In essence, masturbation. When you're masturbating, you're rotating the device in a way to hormonally distract yourself from the truth that's right in front of you. What is that truth? But love's co-creation is the only true thing. Everything else is an illusion. You got to put on your bubble goggles to see that illusion. The bubbles just love me. No matter which way I navigate, the bubbles just kind of come towards me. And that's what love can do. Love can be the bubbles that just come towards you. But you have to open your heart. You have to let go of the fear, the anxiety, the need. You gotta let go to the need. Don't need that need. See it clearly. And towards the end of the boat ride of love, you take a swim in the pool of Eros. And Eros is that feeling, that giddy, that almost drugged feeling of sexual release. And you can get it through, exercise. You can get it through overdosing on drugs and food and sex and all of the above. Eros is that excessive need to release through the need to have, to own, to possess, to control. That's Eros, Love is not that. Love is the unconditional forgiveness and offering of that forgiveness without any expectation of anything in return. See that clearly. And then you leave the love house and you go into the oracle's viewpoint. A platonic love and polyamorous love. And that's the love of everyone. And the platonic love is the great love of friendship. And before you can have now Eros in balance, that kind of I don't want to say drugged feeling, but rapture of the sexual love, of co-creation, of sharing, of being one. That's a part of that there's a fine line between platonic love and polyamorous, right? I want you to go there now, right on that line. Right? I want you to feel what that is, because that is part of what you need to do every day and every way, is to feel that way in your own way, using your conscious free will to define and put yourself in that bubble of love and pop the bubble of the Luciferian fear, anxious need of control. So I'm going to lead you kind of just have that experience, that free experience. And 3, you're in a deep, 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 deep it's like any addiction, Dragon. It's the lack of your free will to choose. It's a giving in to the Luciferian illusion of the material need. Bubbles are birds. Yep. And just floating through our life, bringing us beauty of the bird's song and the beauty of the image of freedom of flight. See it clearly. And 3, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation, right on that line between polyamorous and plutonic love. See it clearly. Jane, all you have to do is breathe in that 20% and breathe out that 30%. And you will always be right where you should be. And when you have any questions, just go into your Akashic record and look at the main screen and everything you need to know. It's better than the magic 8-ball, you know? And then you got the 28 little screens that gives you every point of view. Then you got your librarian to bring you more information. You got your animal totem to give you the 411 on any metaphor. You got your angel to watch your back so you can, suspend your disbelief. And you have your guide of your own lodge. See it clearly. Kick the gloom in the guts, that's right. But kick that gloom in the guts with love's co-creation, And that kick you need to kick, buddy, is the kick of unconditional forgiveness. Of course, come on, that's what this is about. I'm trying to show you how to use these tools, and they're all psychic. They're all telepathic. Now, within the construct of the Luciferian illusion, none of that works. But within inside of love's co-creation, everything is telepathic. I love you, buddy, I love you all the time, buddy, whether you feel great or not, because you are always that unbelievably brave, graceful shock troop of love's co-creation. You never disappoint. Now, I'd only be disappointed if I expected any specific outcome, buddy. But I don't. Therefore, I'm never disappointed because you always step up. Yeah, whatever you say or you might do, I'm not here to judge. And it always comes out right. Because if you can learn from what goes down, it's what's right. The 3 rules. Doctor, do no harm. Do not get involved unless you can bring forth a positive outcome. Do not get involved unless you can learn something. Buddy, you do all 3. Not with any expected outcome, but with your intent. And so say we all, because all of the cadre does this. I've been getting some really beautiful letters in the mail, to my P.O. Box 1165, Vinton, Virginia 24179, and great letters, great cards, great little, monetary assistance. I love that, and I get great, Gmails to my The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and a lot of you have sent me things via Western Union, and you send me the control number, and then I can get them at the
wherever, and I love that. I mean, that's the few extra I need to, get past living on. People, how can you live on $350? I mean, I buy at least $3,000 worth of stuff from Amazon, and then you have to go pick it up, you know, and all you have to do, is you go to the supermarket, you buy what's on sale. That's why I love Kroger's. Kroger's has this thing called the manager special. And, there's some really great specials there. Whereas if you go to the co-op, I mean, I went and bought JB $80 worth of fruit. And that was about 80 oranges and tangerines. It was about 100 bananas. He took if you go on his, I found the secret to lose weight diet, he took a video of the pile of fruit I bought him, when we unloaded the car. And then he texted me, it was a waste of time and money you get it because you bought it at Kroger's. You didn't get it at the co-op. So I went to the co-op and I bought organic fruit. I bought 6 bananas and 4 oranges, and it cost $15 at the co-op. And I am sure that those oranges and bananas came from the same place, right? Because the guy at Kroger, they have an organic section, and the guy, I've been friends with this guy 6 years, and he says that the fruit and vegetables that are in the organic side is the same stuff they sell as the non-organic. It's just smaller and it looks nicer. The others are bigger, and so people think they know about organics. Well, the organic vegetables need to be smaller because they don't have the chemicals. Well, they have the same chemicals. They just became smaller. But basically, it's a scam. All of this crap is a scam. And if you are on that space, that line of platonic and polyamorous love, you can shamanically cleanse. Like I have, when I was back in the days of the Green Room and the Theosophical Society and the different esoteric and occult entities I was part of, members of, and I was a scholar. So, I was not, the kind of ceremony I was into was indigenous ceremony, not magic, because magic is a waste of time. And, but these folks who were part of these, and, the greatest shamanic master I knew incarnate was Madame Olga Kluver. And she always, she was my first real master, I mean, Grandpa Stoll, I guess he was my, sensei, my electric sensei. And I guess in certain ways he was my master too. He was my Obi-Wan Kenobi. And she was my Yoda, because she was as short as Yoda. Anyway, she told me that magic was a waste of time because it was a science based on fallacy. She said the only math that worked was geometry. All, algebra, trigonometry, and all the other esoteric maths of the cabal. The cabal is geometry, but there are certain elements that are more magical, and within the, see, them different schools of the arcane, and they're different schools of the that which is alchemy, right? When you are trying to change the base metals of your, bag of water into that golden thread of your consciousness's free will, that's the true destiny of alchemy. But if you're trying to do some kind of, spell, it's like, forget about it. It's like when I learned acupuncture, right? I realized, I learned all the spots, all the whole thing, the moxie, the this, the that, the energetics. But I realized that you almost
had to be Chinese to do in a kind of righteous way of intent. Now, that's why I picked up shiatsu, because shiatsu is acupuncture without needles. It's massage using those same points. And part of the dynamic of that is Madam Olga Kluver taught me how to muscle test people for acupuncture and shiatsu, right? And that's how you harmonize what you're trying to do with your patient. And that's when you, doctor, do no harm, when you harmonize. I thought it was all about intention, so magic is worthless if it's about self empowerment. This is true. That's exactly it. And so that's why I don't call what I do magic. It's, what I do is shamanism and alchemy, you know, pure alchemy, not full metal alchemy. That one chick you met on the bus that caused those. Well, she was a witch. She was straight up witch, right? And I had, respect for what she was, because when you don't go stick your thumb in the dragon's eye, you are respectful. You don't have to worship, but you can be respectful. I'm respectful to everyone. I mean, everyone, all our relations, no matter whether everyone's getting on that bus and going home to love's co-creation, including Lucifer. Now, I don't have to practice those arts. I can understand them. Individual people, I can be respectful to, but I don't have to join the club, drink the Kool-Aid, or worship them. Respect is something that goes both ways. So you can't respect somebody unless they can respect you. So that girl on the bus, I spent, I don't know how many hours, 6 hours with her. And she was obviously a very powerful witch, and she was very young. So that meant she came from a family, a long line that was in her DNA. And I could tell that right off the bat. And, Madame Olga Kluver, who's, she's not a witch. She's none of any of that. She is an avatar, which is a whole different ball of wax. And she could very easily have just hung in, Shambhala and kicked back, but she didn't. She stayed on this earth in form to help folk out, right? To be there, And she was the one who taught me the 3 rules of doctor, do no harm. Do not get involved unless you can bring forth a positive outcome. And what is that positive outcome? Bringing an individual or group of individuals to their own resolution of their conscious free will to co-create with love. And the 3rd is don't get involved unless you can learn something that magnifies, that brings forth the connection of all our relations with love's co-creation. See that clearly. Very, very rare. But that doesn't mean we should not take baby steps to go in that direction. It's better than twiddling our thumbs or jerking off or getting distracted by the Luciferian illusion, right? That's why we all need to go into state 3 or 4, 5, 10, 15, whatever it takes times a day to, bring forth a spiritual, physical balance, homeostasis. Yep, exactly. Dragon, you're 100% it, because there is no magic, good or bad. I mean, if you've read my writings at xratted.blogspot.com, you will see I go on and on and on, and I mean, I keep saying I don't believe in anything. I have faith in love's co-creation. That's it. That's my foundation block. That's where I step up from, right? And I try to, in baby steps, step up in Tang. Yep. Yin Yang. Yep. I like Yin Tang. It's a nice flavorly drink. Oops. Yeah, I hate it when you get those little brain worms of songs. But I mean, if it's a good song, I don't mind going on with it. Ping pong. Yep. Bong long. That's what those bubbles are. It's kind of look. It's kind of a. I can move these bubbles around all I want. I just have to think about it and give a little. So I'll buy a bottle of wine, right? And I'll open it up, let it breathe. I have, about that much wine. And then the next glass, I have about that much wine and about that much water in the glass, right? And then I have another glass, similar, but now more water, right? Now the bottle is a third emptied by those three glasses of wine. I put my intention on the bottle of wine, and I turn on the tap and I let it run for more than 20 seconds, and then I fill the bottle up, that much, for whatever amount of wine was taken out, I put that in, right? Put the cork back in, wait 20 minutes, open it up, pour myself a glass. And now that wine is better than the first glass of wine I poured that was just wine, right? And so I drink that and go, ooh, that's really good. And then I then again do it, that much wine and that much water, and I do it again. And now I don't do it all in, space of one evening or one day. No, that bottle of wine will last me a week. And as I add water to it, the wine gets better and better. And I can share it with other people. Boy, that's a really good wine. How much did that cost? And I always buy the least in Kroger's. They have a pretty good $2.99 bottle of wine. And by the time I have emptied pretty much all of the redness out of it, I fill the bottle up with water and put the cork back in. The next day, that water is red. And I pour myself a glass of that, and it's better than all of the other glasses, the first glasses of wine I've had. And that's a simple little thing you can do using your intent of your free will. And then when you do that, you can do anything else. I mean, that is the, suspension of your disbelief. Well, I can't do that. But man, you do that. And that's an easy thing. That was Jesus's first little magic trick. But he was, that was an easy thing to do. He could do that like without a problem. And he did it, what was great about when he did it. So he went to this wedding, and in those days, weddings lasted a whole friggin' week, not just, an afternoon. And so they would bring in these casks and casks and casks of like 20 gallons of wine, these clay pots. And they would have, how rich those people were, how long the party was going to last, somewhere between 20 and 100 of those casks, right? And they would have more than that of water, right? And they'd have all the best water. And what they mostly used the water with was to cleanse yourself, because by coming into the house of where that ceremony, you had to cleanse yourself. You had to clean your feet, you had to clean your body, you had to clean yourself, right? And yes, wisdom can't be shared. That has to be experienced. Now, knowledge can, and that's, I am your sensei Al Bob. I am sharing knowledge. And as your griot, see, the griot tells a story that energetically gives the adept that ability to suspend their disbelief on, okay, I'm going to try and do this. That's what I, as a griot, I tell you these stories to give you confidence to go off and do the work you need to do. That's what a griot does. Uber Gruber, everybody. So, back to the story of Jesus. So, the bottom why that was so amazing is that they ran out of wine like a week later, and everyone's drunk and wants the party to keep going. And that's when Mary comes over to her son. Hey, Jesus, hey, we need some more wine. So he goes, okay, and he goes to the servants. Hey, go over there, and those water casks that have the crappiest water, the water at the bottom of the well, the water you've already used and collected to wash the more dirtier people's feet off. Bring those casks over, right? So they do. He kind of blesses them, and says, pour out some of that into a goblet, right? So they do it, and they drink it, and it's the most amazing wine. And then the father of the bride comes over, and he sees the servants doing this, pouring this wine out, and he goes, let me taste that. He goes, why didn't we use this? This is the best of all the wines. And it came from the toilet, basically. And that's why what Jesus did was a little more special than, what I do with, a bottle of wine from Kroger. Pretty much anybody can do that, if you have the right intent, right? So, and I don't do it for just anybody. I have a buddy of mine who I showed how to do this, and he's a good buddy of mine, but he's making he's out there in LA, and he's, being Mr. Groovy dude. And that's cool. He goes to all these conferences and speaks, and, that's how he pays for his Malibu house. That was fine, and he's always saying, oh, you got to live, come on, I'll bring you to all these. And I would, one day I'm going to go out there and hang in his Malibu house and drive his Porsche around and go to all the conferences and be the Sensei Al Bob, and but and it's okay that he's doing that. It's not a false thing, or because he's actually helping a lot of people, and that's cool. And if he puts a price tag, and he's pretty good, meaning I told them, just like my teachers told me, you can't just put a price tag on this for 1995. You can take a gratuity. And he does a very good job of getting people to give him a gratuity. So that's cool. And he's a great guy. And we've traveled a great deal and done some pretty amazing fun things together. And if I ever, when I get the traveling video art circus up and running in the next soon time, he'll be there, because he keeps saying, when are you doing this thing? Let's do it. Come on. I said, fine. I'll come over to your house and we'll make that the base of our. Anyway, so it'll, as my teachers always say, all things are as they should be. And when something is meant to happen, it will happen. My dying 6 different times pretty much proves I am not going to die until it's time for me to die. And when it's time to die, it'll be the perfect time for me to die. So that's kind of how it rolls. So I'm not worrying about death or wanting to die or any of those kind of things. I'm here to be your Sensei Al Bob. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what this moment is about. I am here to be your griot, right? To bring the cadre together, to serve love's co-creation of all our relations, to pop the bubble of the Luciferian illusion so we can all go back home. There's a good story of that at xratted.blogspot.com when I go on about before I was born into this life and I was a car hop in Lost Vegas. That's heaven. And I was a angle, one of the German Visigoths. There are no angels with wings. There are a lot of angles, but not anyway. So go read that. And God's name up in heaven, when he likes to be in human form, is Bob, right? And the thing he likes to do most is to get lap dances at the Horny Dog Titty Bar. And the story of all of that is at xratted.blogspot. So if you like Joseph Campbell, you'll like this novel. If you like the guy who wrote the Illuminati trilogy, what's his name? Robert Anton Wilson. If you like Robert Anton Wilson, you'll like my novel, right? So go on there and go again. It is, I wrote it as a shamanic tool, and I put it up in that blog spot for your accessibility as a adept. I'm giving you a toolbox. When I was studying, under Grandfather David, the elder of the Hopi prophecies, and when I studied with him up in the Four Corners, or down in the Four Corners of New Mexico, he gave me a toolbox. He said all shaman have a toolbox, right? All alchemists have a toolbox and a library, right? He said the library is your Akashic record. You take it wherever you go. You don't need to have a house or a building because you've got all the information you want, right? And the tools to, use this knowledge is your toolbox, right? And that one day, I am slowly giving you tools, I'm slowly showing you things. Because you kept, earlier on, oh, what book should I read to be a magician? No, you can't be a magician. Sorry, can't do that. None of my adepts are magicians, right? Now, they're alchemists, but they're not looking to make anything for themselves like gold. They are looking to access their conscious of their free will. That's the gold they're looking. And they're trying to make it from the base metals of their avatar. And their avatar's experience, and that's what we're here. That's why we're here. If love's co-creation didn't want us here, we wouldn't be here. In this, how can you be a god when so much terrible shit happens? Well, first off, most of that terrible shit is of your own doing, or our own doing, of being deluded by the Luciferian illusion. I would rather a positive one. Yep. Of course, buddy. But sometimes the negative has to be gone through before we can transmute. The thing about the negative, again, we're in this sandbox, right? So we have to experience all this stuff. We don't have to embrace it. We don't have to worship it, and that's what Lucifer wants, worship. And all the demigods want that worship. That's why the Old Testament is something, because it's a metaphor. It's not the word of God. It's a metaphor. It's the, what's the right word? It's the secret code of love's co-creation. But it's not the word. because the word, was the crack of the Luciferian spell of language, of logos. Go look up that with the etymology of the word logos. Living water, dead water, molecules change. Yep. Always bless my water. Yep. Always bless everything. That's why we say grace. Again, dragon, as long as you don't worship it. Much love, exactly. And that's alchemy there, buddy. Yes. Putting things in little boxes is a joke, Love is a 365 event, 24/7. Yeah, copper is a nice little energetic tool. But I'm going to teach you how to dowse, how to muscle test and how to dowse. And we're again going to go to a sacred site in your sanctuary of your own choosing, the healing world. And we're going to go to the tree of knowledge and go to that root of the healing energy of homeostasis. Well, every tool, it's always good to make it yourself. You can go get yourself a sheet of copper and, make it into the vessel you want. And if you want to find a vessel, again, it's just like my car. There's everything I need in that car. Every time I need money, I just kind of, pull the stuff out and look, in the ashtray and on the floor, and I will get, if I need $100, I'll find $100. If I need $20, $20, $5, $5. I mean, the little glove compartment, in the middle of the two seats is really super deep. So every time I dig everything out, I find a $20 bill. One time I found a Benjamin in there. I don't remember putting one in there, but it was in there. Okay. Well, so if you can't afford the copper, right? What you do is you go someplace like I used to live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and before it became the hipster land, it was no man's land, meaning all the drug gangs lived there. It was pretty, and the Hasidim lived there. So if you weren't in the right club, they would toast you, right? And there was this area of all these buildings that had gotten burnt down, and I and I lived in this loft that was above everything, and I knew the cops, and so I was, I was the singular neighborhood watch guy. I'd be looking out my window and I'd see people doing something, and if I didn't know who they were and what they were doing, I would call up my friend in the precinct and said, "Hey, got nothing to do. Why don't you come down to such and such a street and check out what those clowns are doing?" And they would do it, and it always worked out right. I mean, it was always somebody from outside the neighborhood, so none of the homeboys would get upset, and actually I was like the negotiating force between all powers. I could talk to everybody. And so, it was nice when the homeboys, oh, good, you got rid of those guys who could have been, a competition. So okay, good. We don't have to have a gang war in the neighborhood. So I'm much happy to do that. And anyway, so one day I saw these guys digging a deep, amazing hole, and I said, "Well, they must be burying a body." So I called the cops up, and I'm waiting. I keep calling up the sergeant. Oh well, I got nothing going on. Anyway, so when I went and talked to the lieutenant, and what he told me was that none of the policemen were too scared because Red Hook was just above where these guys were digging, and they thought it was a mob hit that they were burying there, because no one would ever find a body if it was buried there. And so they didn't want to have anything to do with that gang, that mob from Red Hook. So they didn't. So I said, screw it. After about 5 hours of me constantly calling the desk saying, go down and check that out, I went down there myself, right? So I go down there, and these guys are digging a hole. And what are they doing? They are anthropologists, and they are digging holes where they know in the 1770s, the Gilded Age, these neighborhoods were of rich Dutch people, and they were digging up their bottles, and they were getting $1,000 a bottle. And I saw in the back of their car they had these boxes of bottles and bubble wrap. And I started, before they realized I was looking at them, I was like going through their trunk looking at the stuff. And I kind of twigged on, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. And they came over to me, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, I belong to this neighborhood, and you guys are trespassers. And, I'm coming here because if the gang guys come here, you'd be dead. You'd be down in that hole. If the mob guy from Red Hook came, you'd be dead down in that hole. So I'm just coming to see who you were and find out what you're doing. And and the guy goes, can you keep those people away from us so they won't kill us? I said, I think so. And the guy gives me right then and there 2,000. I don't even ask for anything. He just like takes all the money he has in this envelope and then counts it and then sticks it in the envelope and goes, here, keep them away. We're going to be doing this for the next 3 days. And so I said, well, I'm interested in anthropology. You guys are anthropologists, aren't you? Oh, yeah. And so I started to have a scholarly conversation with these guys. And they would go, wow, you want to help them dig here? So no, I'm not a digging type. I'm just more interested in what you're finding and what it means. And I said, so why don't you guys knock yourselves out? I'll make sure that I give the 411 to everyone so they don't come and kill you. And, well, thank you for the envelope. And, you'll definitely, it's definitely worth your while. Because I could figure out that the bottles that they had already unearthed was probably worth 50 grand. I wasn't a bottle specialist then, but they kind of, anyway, long story short, I kept coming down in the afternoon around 4 to check up on them. And he told them that, guys, I kind of spread that money around to other people to keep other people away from you. And you need more money? He said, no, no, no. Just keep in your mind an aura of respect to everyone who rides their bike by you, drives a car by you, because the only people coming down the street that by you are all of the different gangs. And this, you just happen to pick this place that's the no man's land between about 5 different organized crime groups. And so just, visualize respect to all of those folks and you'll be fine. I've already, paid off some underlings to just keep the other folk away. And I've already talked to the OGs to cut you some slack. And if you come back next time, they're going to come visit you. And you're probably going to have to pay them at least half of whatever you're going to make. And so after that, they tried to get me to dig stuff, and I said, "Listen, I'm not a guy who digs stuff up. So why don't you just make a deal with the OGs? They got underlings who will definitely dig the shit up for you, and so you don't make hundreds of thousands. So you make 20, 30,000 just for telling them where to dig. That's a pretty good deal, don't you think? Because you're not doing this for a scholarly or scholastic reason. You're doing it to make money. Don't you think that's? And the guy goes, "Yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right." So they did, and they dug up that whole 4 block area. It was like they were studying the you know tomb of King Tut, and they got some amazing shit out of there. So what I'm telling you guys, if you want to find anything, just put the right intent into it, and then go dig around where there's a garbage pile, especially an old garbage pile. And a friend of mine and I, the guy Carlton, who was the first Marble Man, who was a real jerk to all the human race except me, because I treated him nice. He was truly a good friend. I mean, I've told stories about Carlton, but one of the things, I mean, his mother was an antique dealer, and so he knew antiques like you couldn't believe. So twice we went, or he and I went, but he had the money, and he would buy the crappiest oldest farmy, crappy, cheapest piece of crap in some county upstate New York, and he would figure out a neck of the woods, and then he would go around to the what was on the tax rolls and banks and real estate folks, and he would find the crappiest piece of crap he could find, and he would buy it for virtually nothing, and then he would come on site and dig stuff up, and these were all things that were these crappy old farms went back to pre-revolutionary times, and he got amazing stuff out of those houses and out of just digging around where the garbage pits were. And he would buy, a 10 to 20 or 50 acre farm with a farmhouse and a barn. And we would go through everything, and he would make close, somewhere between 50 and $400,000 because this guy knew antiques. And, and I did a little bit of that in my travels. And, but I'm not a digging up kind of guy. But the most amazing digging up thing that I occurred was so in New York in 1980 when I came back from Ireland and Ronald Reagan took over, and basically he destroyed the healthcare because American healthcare wasn't that bad. It was an interesting quilt of insurance and business, and it pretty much took care of most Americans. And Ronald Reagan destroyed it because the folks who didn't have any of that, the federal government took care of. And so they had mental institutions that had maybe 500,000 Americans in, and they kind of took care of them. And Ronald Reagan closed them all, put 500,000 people out on the street. And that's why crime went through the roof, because they had 500,000 people, folks who had been institutionalized their whole life, and then they were put on the street. So the criminals took advantage of them, and they kind of went crazy and did crazy things. And that's kind of why after George H., Bill Clinton finished the job of destroying health care and pretty much everything else. I mean, he was the reason why we had the '08 crash. Anyway, so they kind of, between the oil embargo of the '70s and the number of other banking collapses that had hurt, and the unraveling of the social safety net, about 200,000 people who had worked and lived in rent-controlled apartments were homeless on the street. And so a group of my friends and I basically used the Homestead Act of 1876, took over 50 buildings, and housed 500 homeless families. I mean, our housing coalition was about homeless families, mama and kids. right, who were living in cardboard boxes, who were going to end up dead and or, in prostitution and drugs. And we put them in their own house. And then got them, showed them how to fix their apartments up to code. I was a master electrician. I put legal electricity in all these buildings, which is like, the platinum standard, meaning when the marshal comes to throw you out and you have an electric bill, they can't throw you out. So we did that. We housed 500 families. So we would go into these buildings and we'd demo them out and rebuild them. And in the process of, demoing out one building, one of these apartments, we were tearing out the plaster walls that were like rotted and fungusy, and because they were open to we put a roof on, and then we started taking out all the moldy shit and asbestos shit. And when we tore this one wall down, we found hundreds of coffee cans full of gold dollars. About $70,000 worth of gold dollars. And that was 1984. So if we had kept those and just sold them, when gold got expensive, that was probably worth $300,000 in gold. Anyway, that was the most interesting and fun, stuff that I unearthed. Like I said, with the Marlboro Man, we dug up a lot, and that's where I learned about how to dig stuff up, and that's why I ended up going to Egypt with the Egyptologists to look at things. Like I said, doctor, do no harm, learn something, have a positive outcome. That's what has been the three rules of my life since I was 9 that I learned from Madame Olga Kluver. And all of this is based on love's co-creation, period. And again, as I think Buddy said, Valentine's Day, not just one freaking day of the year, 365, 24/7. That's where we should be loved. All the people that we love, we need to love that way. What's wrong with that? Let's see. What's wrong with making gold so you can, all that can give out for free? Well, what it's not, again, guys, I don't know how many times I have to say this. There is no good or bad. All there is intent within the construct of the illusion, the Luciferian thing. It's all about intent. You can manifest anything that you intend. So go, but as you do that, there's always a cost within the construct of the illusion, right? So you just got to watch out for the cost. Whatever that cost is, what's wrong with making gold so you can create colloidal gold that you can give out for free. Well, if that's your intent, well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But once you start making gold like that, other costs come around. It's the cost. You just have to be aware of the cost. Yes, electric wire is a very... I had a friend named Otter, and he would take motor coils apart, and he made the most exquisite jewelry and metal sculptures from that wire. Exactly. You can make a positive from everything you do. You make a positive when you create with love's co-creation. So if you want to, create a chemical gold and make a colloidal gold, that's creating with love's co-creation. So you do it that way. There's nothing, again, there is no good or bad. There's just a cost. Copper is my favorite metal. Exactly. That's why I'm such a stickler on words. I'm a big fan of etymology of every word. That's why I kind of learned Latin, Greek, Hebrew. You know. Yep. Copper is great for arthritis. Yep. To wear a copper necklace, and a headband. But you can also just visualize the copper, and does another. Yep. A cornucopia owlmobile. Yeah, that's kind of. Yeah, that's it, buddy. That's what I got. Flex the cat bag. Yeah. A bottomless boot. Yep. That's right, G. What you are buying when you pay attention. Focus. Yep. Leave that 20% in and 30% out. Go to your Akashic record. Yep, the secret to life is honesty. Fair dealing. Can fake that. You got it made. Did Groucho say that? No, Groucho's like my patron saint. But it is, when I was 6, I learned real easy that honesty, truthfulness, and empathy were the keys to success. Because, lying, you got to remember all that shit. My brain is Swiss cheese. Yeah, that's why I get my teeth done at the prison dentistry. Perverted Mark Twain. Well, Mark Twain was a tad perverted. No, but he was a little more clear. Yep, they're out for love tonight. Nook, nook, nook. Yep. Sounds good to you. Nook, 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 nook. Yep. Cause and effect. Yep. Yep. I mean, pain is a good thing. It's our friend. It tells us when you shouldn't be doing that. Well, that hurts. Well, stop doing it. Pleasure is fine until it goes into excess. It's all interpretation, pretty much. But an interpretation has to be based on a objective, not a subjective point of view. And within the construct of the illusion of the Luciferian material world, objective is a freaking oxymoron. Smash the hammer on your thumb and come back and tell me that. Just kidding. Well, if you smash the hammer on your thumb, the lesson is don't do that again. Of course, you can break your thumb. It's not a good feeling. You want to hear? Ooh, I was in a. And this always happens. I'm such a New Yorker. I was in a rush one day going to work, and I took a cab, and I got out of the cab, and I closed the door of the cab on my hand. It was like in there, and it latched, right? And the cabbie was about to take off, right? And there was a hot dog vendor right in front of the cabbie, and he stepped in front of the cab and put up his hand, stop, stop, stop. And he came over, and he opened up the door, and my hand was like crinkled, like it was like bent in a S shape. And he stuck it in my in the, he had one of those Sabret hot dog wagons, right? The boiling water for the hot dogs, the steaminess for the buns, and the cooler for the sodas. And he stuck my hand in the ice cooler, and he kept it there for 5 minutes. And he knew I worked in the hospital. He goes, "Now go immediately to your friend in the emergency room and get them to X-ray your hand, and come back with the picture to me." And so I did that, and like froze my friggin' hand. And I went to the emergency room, and they X-rayed it, and it was amazing. I did not break a bone. Now I really crushed, and the fascia and the muscles were like totally whack, but I didn't break any bones. It was pretty amazing. And so I brought it back to this Indian hot dog guy. He looked at the X-ray, and then he energetically adjusted the fascia in my hand, right? And then he put it, this is in the cold water again. And then he took a little pot and emptied some of the hot dog water, and then he took some of the brine from the what do they put on hot dogs? The cabbage in there, and then he added some ice water, and he put my hand in that, and then he soaked some paper towels, and then he took some, what do they call that stuff? Oh, you know, that kind of plasticky stuff that clings. Anyway, he wrapped my hand up in that, right? And said, go home. And he had this little plastic bag full of powdery stuff. And he goes, make a tea of this and drink it, and take a teaspoon and put it in warm water and soak your hand in it. And so I did. And the next day, my hand was not quite as good as new, but it was pretty magical. And I went back to the guy and said, wow, that was pretty amazing. I need to learn how to do that. And he goes, it's intent. You meditate. Just focus on the healing arm of that package. And I did. So he was a hot dog vendor, but he was, again, one of my better teachers. And we became friends because I worked in that hospital for a good 6 months. And the more he taught me how to heal with intent, the better practitioner I was in that hospital. And closing the car door in my hand, was not the best of feelings, but the way the guy healed my hand was better than anything I felt. And the knowledge he gave me, which, again, he resonated those three things. Doctor, do no harm, get a positive outcome, and learn something, right? I've got all three. Ouch. Yeah. Hilarious and painful, all at the same time. Yep. And that was I wasn't on mushrooms, but I think about it now and I smile and laugh. Because I was such a putz. I was in a rush. You would think I'd learn this one. Yeah, I think I have. I'm old enough to go, okay, I'm not going to rush anymore. Except that 20% when I'm a moron every day. Yep, you can go back to the old YouTube and dig around. I took a look about a week ago, and I was quite amazed that the ones at the very beginning were as good as this. Totally different, stylistically, etc. But they're not so bad. So again, guys, go ahead and copy these, put them on thumb drives, put them on your hard drive. The more people have these, and that they're all over the universe, the better they are. Funky Puccini, yeah. Hot dog magic, exactly. The maple kind, yep. Just a little. It's kind of twitchy. Yeah. Okay, we're getting towards 3 hours here. So I'm going to kind of bring you, you're all kind of backs, but I'm going to count you back. So there you've been. That's why we had such a nice chat, was that you were right on that line between, you know, plu- you know, platonic love and the other one. It's kind of twitchy. Yep. So polyamorous, yes. Platonic, twitchy, funky Puccini. I like that dragon. So, so 3. You're in a deep state of relaxation. You're in your sanctuary of your own choosing. You're in your fun carnival land, right? And you're right on that line of platonic love and polyamorous love. And you've had some pretty interesting insights. And that's what you get when you're in love. Much love, all. Yep. So, you're coming back, you're waking up, you're walking towards the bridge of your id between your superconscious mind and your subconscious mind, and you've been on a date with love's co-creation this whole time in your sanctuary of your own choosing. And now you are walking over the bridge of your id, you're at the top, you're overstanding everything, you're seeing the connections. You're understanding all our relations. You're understanding the avatar of the cadre. You're understanding the truth of the chorus and the unconditional love of the shock troop of love's co-creation. Borderline of insanity, but in a state of love's co-creation. Exactamundo. And, insanity. What is insanity? The old lexicon. It's to be, insane in the main brain. That's the bottom line is that when you're insane in the Luciferian world of illusion, you're waking up. I worked in a lot of fruit bins, and the people who were the most, vegetation were the shrinks themselves. The people in there were just there because they were truthful. Yep, nobody's sane because we live in this illusion. Of course, you're nuts. So, at 3 hours and 3 minutes and 3 seconds, I'm going to say goodnight. And so, this was a lovely celebration of plutocratic and a polyamorous love. Yeah, vegetation migration, yeah. And this was another lovely chat, and I love you all, and I'm going to go into Dreamtime relatively soon, and so if you want to join, I invite you to join me for a cup of tea in Dreamland. And again, you want to get a hold of me, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And I'd love to hear any kind of feedback from the old xratted.blogspot.com. And it's 3 hours, 2 minutes, and 19 seconds. I love you all, and enjoy the day. If you're waking up, enjoy the work. If you're at work, enjoy going to dreamy land like I'm going to soon. Good night, you all. I love you all. I love the cadre, my cadre of adepts, the chorus of truth, and the shock troops of love's co-creation. 3, 3, 3, 3.